I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you tonight. 2 children are dead and 17 people are wounded after a shooting Wednesday morning at a Minneapolis Catholic school. Plus, conservative leader Pierre Poilievre warns Canadians to beware of carbon tax 2.0. And it was another record-breaking year for attendance at Whoop Up Days. Thanks for joining us. 2 children are dead and 17 people have been wounded after a shooting Wednesday morning at a Minneapolis Catholic school. Minneapolis police say the 2 children killed were 8 and 10 years of age, and 14 of the 17 injured are children. The children were participating in a morning mass marking the start of the school year when the shooter opened fire.
So we live about 2 blocks from here. I was on a call. All the windows of our home were open. I know what gunfire sounds like, and I could tell. I was shocked. I said, "There's no way that could be gunfire." There was so much of it, so it was sporadic. It was a semi-automatic. It seemed like a rifle. It certainly didn't sound like a handgun, and so he must have reloaded, several times for sure.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
Police say the gunman was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. Authorities believe all 3 weapons were used. The police chief says they're looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of a motive. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is warning Canadians to beware of carbon tax 2.0. Speaking in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Poilievre says Prime Minister Mark Carney got rid of the carbon tax when he needed votes, and now that he doesn't need voters, he's bringing in a new one. Because in Poilievre's words, he still wants your money.
He calls it the Clean Fuel Standard, Clean Fuel Regulations. According to the parliamentary budget officer, it will add 17 cents a liter to your gas. What did the last carbon tax add to your gas? 17 cents a liter. The new tax is starting to look a lot like the old tax. And Mark Carney thinks no one will notice. Well, conservatives have noticed, and that is why we are announcing today that we are making it a priority to boost take-home pay and reverse the liberal cost of living crisis by opposing Mark Carney's carbon tax 2.0. We want to axe all carbon taxes for good, for real, for everyone, forever.
The Parliamentary Budget Office also found the clean fuel regulations to be broadly regressive, with a greater financial impact on lower-income households, and projected a decrease in real GDP by up to 0.3% in 2030. 1 year after it was struck by a rocket, Ukraine's largest children's hospital is preparing to reopen. The attack killed 4 and injured a dozen, and the Canadian Red Cross has been helping local efforts to get the century-old facility to reopen.
I will use the wrong word, but let's call this luckily that it hit the small building, the transfusiology center, and not the main children's hospital or not the cardio center where actually the practical surgeon operations were happening at the moment of the attack. Shelling, blowing, and so on. You see, I think every window got destroyed. You see OSB, you see tarpaulins, you see everything. This building as well. We just replaced it, the windows here, but the cardio center. But still, the windows were damaged, the facade was damaged, the roof was damaged a lot.
So yeah, on the day it was basically a working day for everyone. So the treatment was going, the surgeries were going, children were in the operation rooms when the attack happened. So you can imagine that the damage, when the attack happened, the damage, and children were, their patients were inside, staff of the center and the hospital were doing their work, and they were just caught in the middle of it. It's the biggest children's hospital in Ukraine, Ohmedit, and the Center of Cardiology and Cardiosurgery is also one of the biggest ones in Ukraine. So there was substantial damage done to the buildings, and most importantly, it's about people, it's about children. who need care and who at that time were in a hospital, were in the center, and were receiving needed care and treatment.
Israeli and U.S. officials met in Washington Wednesday to discuss post-war Gaza, even as an end to the fighting is far from visible. Israel's military is pushing for an evacuation of Gaza City, calling the move inevitable ahead of a military offense it's choosing to push forward with. It comes as outrage mounts over this week's deadly Israeli strikes on a southern Gaza hospital, which killed 20 people, including journalists and emergency responders. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations commented on that strike today.
First, we regret the loss of life of any journalist or non-combatant. We fight Hamas. That's our goal, to eliminate Hamas. We are still looking into the details of that incident, and I'm sure that in the next few days we will have more information about that. But Prime Minister Netanyahu was very clear that he said it was a tragedy. We regret it. During wartime you have such kind of incidents, but our goal is to fight terrorists, not journalists, not anyone who is not involved in terrorism. We know how this war will end, with the hostages coming back home and Hamas is not in power. The sooner it will happen, there will be less suffering for everybody. So I'm not familiar with any other option. Maybe there will be an agreement, but if not, we will have to take a military measure, military pressure, in order to bring back the hostages.
In other news, here locally, some folks who went to grab their morning brew at a local Tim Hortons this morning were surprised to witness the aftermath of a vehicle that had plowed through the front doors. Reportedly, an elderly man driving a truck accidentally drove over the curb and through the front entrance of the Tim Hortons on 5th Avenue North and 13th Street at around 7:30 Wednesday morning. Emergency crews attended the site and taped off the doors. LFES has confirmed to BCN that there were no reported injuries, including the driver of the truck. Business continued as usual that morning, and cleanup of the site has begun. Well, this past weekend, Ukraine celebrated the nation's Independence Day, including those who escaped to Canada since the start of Russia's invasion. Events were held in Tabor and in Lethbridge to commemorate Ukrainian heritage. One of the first Ukrainian evacuees who made her way to Lethbridge, Medina Kononenko, says there is still a spirit of hope for the future and is grateful to Canada, where Ukrainians have been able to find work and continue to support each other.
We're really happy to be here. We love Lethbridge, beautiful city, beautiful people, everybody's so friendly. And we already have Canadians as a friends, right? So I think we're gonna grow more and more in the community, do more stuff for Ukrainian and Canadian community, and support each other. We just want people to see that we are independent, we are strong, and we believe that this war is gonna end up soon as possible. We want other people remember that Ukrainians still fighting, still needs the help, war is still going. People who decided and would like to be here, we are working, we're buying houses, we're supporting the economy as much as we can, but we just really struggle with the programs and getting the permanent residence. We're on the work permits, which allows us to work several years, 3-4 years. But then most of the people would like to stay in Canada. It takes a lot of time to get this permanent residence. For me, I'm waiting 2.5 years already to get it done. Ukraine will be always with us in hearts, and we are Ukrainians. We were born there, right? So, but we're, doing everything possible to keep the traditions alive.
Prime Minister Mark Carney visited Kyiv over the weekend to mark Ukraine's 34th Independence Day. Carney further emphasized Canada's support and commitment to Ukraine's security, including the $2 billion package he announced at the G7 summit in June. The latest change to the Canada-U.S. trade relationship is about to hit another bump in the road. Beginning Friday, the U.S. is set to eliminate what's known as the de minimis exemption, which allows packages of up to $800 to ship to the U.S. without duties. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that means many companies could lose their U.S. customers as taxes and duties make the product more expensive. A CFIB survey shows 1/3 of small and medium-sized businesses are expected to be impacted by the loss of the de minimis exemption. The Canadian tech job market has gone from boom to bust in the last 5 years. A new study done by job postings site Indeed says August openings in the sector posted on its platform were down 19% from their early 2020 levels. Indeed says the fall was likely caused by the market adjusting after a pandemic boom in hiring or recent artificial intelligence advances. It says while there is a decline in tech job postings and software engineer roles, AI-related job postings and hirings were still up compared to early 2020. The Lethbridge District Exhibition says the 2025 edition of Whoop Up Days was a massive success. Over 54,000 people attended the event, setting a new paid attendance record, a 36% increase over the previous record set in 2024. LDE Acting CEO Kim Gallucci says they're thrilled to see the continued growth of Lethbridge's biggest event.
We're really thrilled to see the patrons come out from not just Lethbridge, but the entire region, and to see the increase year over year, especially since we had to introduce back into some of the paid. We believe our free till 3 in the earlier part of the week helps create opportunities for families, but our attendance now in the 3rd year in a row has grown, which has just been fantastic.
And beyond that, we just know anecdotally from the feedback that we've received that it was a great week, that people really enjoyed themselves. The weather was pristine. There's a few things where we saw the interest grow. Number one is the Lethbridge District Pro Rodeo, which is now in its 4th year. That attendance went up 47% over last year. Beyond that, we saw big growth in our stage performers, our headliners presented by Westco Construction, our stage entertainment. The Trooper concert on Friday night is, I think, one that the city will be talking about for a long time. Stage area was packed. It was super exciting to see that. Chad Brownlee on Saturday night brought in another huge crowd. So we had our Whoop Up wrap up on Sunday, and so we had just over 1,000 people, which is probably a little under what we would have expected for a day like that. But it goes back to that taking risks and pushing forward and trying new things, and we're happy to do that, and we want to try doing that. So it was a good chance to kind of see how the community would react to a 6th day of Whoop Up Days and to the Sunday.
The Lethbridge District Pro Rodeo also set the pace as one of Lethbridge's fastest growing events, with a new record of 9,075 people taking in the 3 days of pro rodeo and relay racing action, a 47% increase from last year's record. As the popularity of artificial intelligence increases, so does the hesitancy to adopt it. Technologies such as career websites have increased the competition for jobs, but does AI make life easier for employers and those looking for a new career? In this next story, BCN's Naveen Day digs into a new AI-powered workforce platform that will help shape Canada's future and its Southern Alberta connection.
A new national initiative is redefining how Canadian employers and job seekers connect, grow, and adapt to an evolving economy. Akito, developed by Advanced Right Technologies, is an AI-powered workforce career tech development platform that helps employers identify and retain job-ready talent while guiding individuals towards meaningful, in-demand careers. Program Manager for Economic Development Lethbridge's Regional Information Network of Southern Alberta, Charlie Soretta, describes how the platform connects employers with job seekers.
There's both a login for employers and a login for job seekers. They're two different interfaces. So what you get as a job seeker is you get the ability to create assessments for different industries that you're hoping to get into, different career paths you're thinking about leaning toward, and then you can actually see a little bit clearer what your skills are outside of what you might have previously had experience in or worked in as well. And then on the employer side, they get to see that information. So they actually have visibility on what candidates might suit both their company culture as well as the skills that they require.
Akito was built in collaboration with 5 other consortium members, all powered by labor market intelligence, some of which was provided by Economic Development Lethbridge.
We actually have a lot of information that we already use on our job boards and on our website to help inform employers and job seekers. However, this has been a more manual process in the past where people have to filter through and look for the information, or what our staff does is on the back end try to make visuals that make it easier to understand. What we are now doing with Akito is taking that data and using the trends to figure out what the gaps are in our market right now. We're trying to scrape data for hirers as well as job seekers with the permission of those folks, of course.
The inclusion of AI in tasks normally done by humans is a controversial topic. While the U.S. is further ahead with explicit AI in hiring regulation, Canada is moving towards its own framework. This includes the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act, or ADA, which is part of Bill C-27, which will regulate high-impact AI systems, including those used in employment. Additionally, there is Alberta's Personal Information Protection Act, or PIPA, which governs how private sector organizations collect, use, and disclose personal data. The debate around AI in hiring is emerging in Canada, and key concerns include bias and fairness, which could affect Indigenous workers, rural communities, or newcomers, transparency, where job seekers have little visibility into how they are scored or matched,